My sister Lauren wrecked my home and trashed my newborn's nursery. Now, my father-in-law, a tough Marine general, is making sure she faces federal prison. I'm Sophie. As I was preparing to welcome my baby, Lauren didn't just cross a line, she smashed it to pieces. While I was in labor, fighting through pain in the hospital, she was at my house, ruining 9 months of love and careful planning. She destroyed my baby's nursery. She didn't expect my husband's father, a 3-star Marine general who fiercely protects his family, to step in. Lauren thought she could break me when I was vulnerable, but she didn't know my strongest ally was already on his way. 4 a.m., a contraction hit me like a truck, jolting me awake in our Maple Street bed. William snapped awake beside me, his military instincts kicking in even half asleep. Pain gripped my midsection, squeezing like a merciless vice. I clung to our wooden headboard, handmade by William on his last leave, and tried to breathe as Dr. Cooper had taught us in birthing classes. Rain pounded our bedroom windows, matching the frantic rhythm of my heartbeat. Portland's storms had been brutal all week, with tempests rolling in from the Pacific. Our Craftsman house groaned in the wind, but it felt solid, like the safe home William and I dreamed of when he was deployed. A place to start our family. When the contraction eased, I looked at William, who was already timing the next one on his phone. His brown hair stuck up wildly, but his eyes were sharp and focused. 3 tours in Afghanistan had trained him to wake up ready for anything. He squeezed my hand, his rough fingers gentle against my palm. 25 minutes later, another contraction hit, even stronger. I made low, primal sounds, my body taking over completely. William was already dressed, moving with quiet precision to grab our maternity bag, packed weeks ago. The bag waited by our dresser, stuffed with tiny onesies, blankets, and everything the parenting book said we'd need for our daughter's birth. We named her Emily months ago when she was just a flutter in my womb and William was video calling from base. The name felt perfect then and even more so now as another contraction built. Emily was our hope through William's tough return from deployment, through sleepless nights when he'd wake reaching for non-existent weapons, and through learning to live as civilians together. By 6 a.m., contractions hit every 20 minutes. William called Dr. Cooper, one hand rubbing my lower back where a stubborn ache had settled. Our house felt alive in the early morning, buzzing with anticipation. Every familiar object held deeper meaning. Couch where we debated baby names. Kitchen table where we picked nursery paint colors. The nursery, soon to be Emily's, waited down the hall. I'd spent months painting woodland creatures on its green walls, while William built the crib and changing table with the same precision he used on his rifle. We found the rocking chair at an Ashland estate sale, and I reupholstered it with cream fabric and tiny fox embroidery. Every detail was chosen with love, from the mobile William's mom sent to the bookcase filled with stories I couldn't wait to read to Emily. 7 a.m. I called my mom, her voice groggy but quickly alert. Helen Carter had been waiting for this call, checking in daily, eager for her first grandchild. She promised to drive from Ashland once the stormy roads cleared. My dad, Robert, stayed behind for his veterinary clinic but sent his love, promising to visit once Emily arrived. Then came the call I dreaded. William watched me as I scrolled to Lauren's number. My sister and I have a rocky relationship, and my pregnancy only made it worse. Lauren criticized every step, saying I rushed into motherhood, that William and I barely knew each other, that military life was too hard. Still, I wanted her to know her niece was coming. Her phone went to voicemail. I left a message between contractions, struggling to keep my voice steady as I said we were heading to the hospital. Part of me was relieved to avoid a real talk, but another part felt the familiar pang of her absence when I needed family most. At 8:30, Dr. Cooper's office called, telling us to head to Riverside Medical Center. Contractions were now every 10 minutes, so intense I gripped whatever was closest: William's arm, the car door, the wheelchair armrest at the hospital. The rain had softened to a drizzle, and Portland's streets were empty in the dim morning light. Riverside Medical Center loomed ahead, all glass and steel, a beacon of modern efficiency. William pulled up to the maternity entrance, and soon I was wheeled through automatic doors as he parked. The hospital smell hit me: antiseptic, floor wax, and something unplaceable. This place, where life began, should have felt comforting, but it was overwhelming and strange. Room 216 became our temporary home, painted in calming blues with a big window facing a courtyard garden. Bare trees outside sparkled with tiny white lights like stars against the gray sky. Nurse Angela Reed greeted me with a warm smile and steady hands, taking my vitals and helping me into a hospital gown that left me feeling exposed. The next hours blurred with intensifying pain and medical checks. Dr. Cooper arrived at 9 a.m., her hair slightly messy from the early call. She checked me with calm efficiency, saying I was 4 centimeters dilated and Emily was eager to arrive. William held my hand through each contraction, steady and comforting, even when I gripped hard enough to leave marks. Around noon, my mom rushed into the hospital room, arms full of snack bags, her nervous energy buzzing in the air. She hugged William tightly, thanking him for taking such good care of me, then started fussing, rearranging flowers, tidying my bedside table. That's how Helen Carter shows love: fixing, organizing, doing. I could tell it killed her that all she could do now was wait. Contractions hit every 10 minutes, stealing my breath and demanding every ounce of my focus. Between them, I tried to rest, but my mind kept drifting to the nursery at home. I pictured Emily's crib, built with such care. The mobile above it, casting soft shadows, the diapers, wipes, and tiny essentials for her new life. The rocking chair where I'd nurse her, sing to her, watch her grow. During one of these daydreams, my phone buzzed with a text. It was Lauren, finally replying to my voicemail from hours ago. Her message was short and all about her. Can't come today. Busy. Good luck, I guess. I stared at the screen, feeling the familiar sting of hurt and sadness. Even on the day I was bringing her niece into the world, Lauren couldn't show up or even pretend to care. William saw my frown and glanced at the phone. His jaw tightened, like it did when he was holding back anger. He never badmouthed Lauren, but I knew he'd noticed her pattern over the months, undermining my joy, taking jabs at our relationship, questioning our wedding, our house, our baby. Another contraction surged, stronger than before, and Lauren vanished from my thoughts. This was bigger than her jealousy or need for attention. This was about bringing our daughter into the world, about the family William and I were creating. Nothing else mattered but the life inside me and the man by my side. Dr. Cooper came back around 3 o'clock, saying I was 8 centimeters dilated and everything looked good. Pain was relentless now, one contraction rolling into the next with barely a moment to breathe. Nurse Angela adjusted my position, helping me find some comfort, while Mom hovered with ice chips and encouraging words. Then William's phone rang. His father's name lit up the screen, and he stepped into the hall to answer. General Derek Grant didn't call often, but when he did, it was serious. Through the door, I caught bits of William's voice. "Yes, sir. Today, any time now." His tone carried the respect and formality he always used with his dad. Their relationship had warmed since our wedding, but when William returned, his face held a new alertness, a soldier's readiness. He took my hand and whispered that his dad was flying in from base, aiming to arrive by evening. I felt a rush of gratitude and surprise. General Grant wasn't one for grand gestures or emotions, but his first grandchild's birth was worth a cross-country trip. The afternoon blurred into a storm of intensity. Each contraction demanded more, forcing me to focus and breathe deliberately. William coached me through each one, his voice steady and strong, while Mom kept up her stream of ice chips and support. Nurse Angela checked in often, monitoring Emily's heart rate and my progress with calm expertise. Around 5 o'clock, another text from Lauren popped up. This one was longer, sharper, crueler than her earlier brush-off. "Sophie, don't expect a baby shower or anything. Some of us have real lives and can't drop everything for your little drama." I read it, tears stinging my eyes. Even now, she had to belittle this moment, twisting it to be about her own struggles. I showed Mom the text, and her face fell as she read it. She'd spent years trying to mediate between Lauren and me, excusing her behavior, urging me to understand. But something shifted in her expression, a rare hardness, as Lauren's cruelty stared back in black and white. Before Mom could respond, another contraction hit, and I forgot everything but breathing through the pain. Dr. Cooper swept in, checked me, and smiled. She said I was fully dilated. It was time to push. Time to meet our daughter. Time to finish what we'd been building for 9 months. The next hour was the hardest physical challenge I'd ever faced. Every push took all my strength and will. William stayed by my side, counting each push, lifting me when I felt like giving up. Mom held my other hand, tears streaming as she watched me bring new life into the world. 5:47 p.m., Emily Elizabeth Grant was born, her cry piercing the stormy November evening like sunlight through clouds. Dr. Cooper laid her on my chest. This tiny, perfect girl had William's dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything. She was real. She was here. She was ours. The room glowed with the quiet joy of new life. William's eyes glistened as he touched Emily's tiny hand, marveling at her perfect little fingernails. Mom sobbed openly, her trembling fingers brushing Emily's cheek. Nurse Angela moved around us, handling medical tasks while we soaked in our first moments as a family. Through the initial rush faded and Emily was cleaned, measured, and deemed perfect, I checked my phone. Messages of congratulations poured in from friends following my pregnancy journey. But one message stopped me cold. Lauren had texted again just 30 minutes earlier. Got your key back from Mom. Thanks for letting me borrow it. Needed to grab something I left at your place. Don't worry, I was careful. Timestamp read 5:15 p.m. As I lay in the hospital bed, holding Emily, Lauren's text chilled me. She'd been at our house, using a key she borrowed weeks ago and never returned, right when I was in labor. My hands trembled as I reread her message, my mind racing to understand why she'd go to our house today. William saw my face and leaned over to read the text. His expression froze, the way it did when he sensed danger. He quickly called our neighbor, Mrs. Robinson, whose kitchen window faced our front yard. Call was short, but his face darkened when he hung up. Mrs. Robinson saw Lauren's car in our driveway at 5 p.m. She heard banging like construction coming from inside, assuming it was an emergency repair. The noise lasted 15 minutes, then stopped. Lauren's car was gone soon after. A cold dread spread through me, clashing with the joy and exhaustion of Emily's birth. Something was terribly wrong. Lauren's claim of being careful felt like a taunt, as if she knew I was powerless to stop her. William opened our home security app, the one we installed before his last deployment for peace of mind. His fingers flew across the screen, pulling up footage from inside our house. What we saw made my mom gasp, and William's jaw tightened with barely contained fury. The nursery camera showed utter destruction. Crib was flipped, its carefully assembled pieces scattered. Changing table was toppled, diapers and supplies strewn everywhere. My rocking chair, lovingly reupholstered, lay on its side, the fabric torn. The mobile William hung with such care was smashed on the floor, its woodland creatures crushed. Worst of all were the walls. My mural, foxes, deer, rabbits painted over weeks to welcome Emily, was ruined. Holes gaped in the drywall as if smashed with a hammer. Paint cans had been opened and splattered, red and black streaks slashing the soft green walls like wounds. Emily stirred in my arms, her tiny squeak alerting me I was holding her too tightly. The room spun, my breath shallow. 9 months of love and planning, destroyed in 15 minutes by someone who was supposed to be family. While I was giving birth, my sister was tearing apart the space meant to nurture my daughter. Mom stared at William's phone, hand over her mouth, horrified. She'd defended Lauren for years, making excuses, insisting she loved me. But this? There was no excusing this. It was pure, deliberate cruelty. William was already on his phone, fingers moving with soldier-like precision. He was calling his father, General Grant, who was due in Portland within the hour. The conversation was short, clipped, but I heard William's resolve as he explained what happened. Whatever his dad said back, William's anger shifted to something like grim satisfaction. He turned to me, eyes soft but voice firm, promising justice. His father was heading to our house with 2 aides to secure the scene and document everything. More importantly, General Grant was taking action, using connections Lauren couldn't have anticipated. Holding Emily, staring at the images of destruction, I felt something harden inside me. Lauren's jealousy and need for attention weren't just petty anymore. She'd targeted my family, my child, my home when we were most vulnerable. She'd made a terrible mistake. She thought I'd be too caught up in labor to notice her actions until it was too late. She thought she'd have hours, maybe days, to craft an excuse or shift blame. She didn't count on targeting a Marine's family, people who knew how to fight back. And she definitely didn't expect General Derek Grant to take a personal interest. Emily's eyes opened, her newborn gaze unfocused but strong, adjusting to the world. Her tiny fingers gripped mine with surprising force, sparking a fierce protectiveness in me. This was my daughter. No one would harm her or the future we were building. The nursery was our dream, filled with hope and love for her. But looking at my healthy, beautiful baby, I realized Lauren had failed. She could destroy things, but not what mattered most. She couldn't touch the bond between William and me. She couldn't stop our love for Emily. She couldn't break our family. Nurse Angela came to check on us, saw our faces, and asked if we were okay. William explained briefly, and her professional calm turned to outrage. In 15 years as a labor and delivery nurse, she'd never heard of such intentional malice. Dr. Cooper stopped by soon after, having heard from the staff. She offered to keep us in the hospital another day to handle things at home. She also mentioned support for families dealing with domestic issues, framing Lauren's actions as a kind of domestic violence, which hit me hard. Around 7 o'clock, as we discussed next steps, William's phone rang again. When General Grant's name flashed on my phone, William snapped, "Yes, sir." Normally, that would have made me smile. Call dragged on, with William mostly listening, tossing in a copy that or understood here and there. When he hung up, his face shifted, not quite relief, but a grim kind of anticipation. His father had come to our house and seen the wreckage firsthand. He'd also dug into Lauren's recent moves, uncovering some shocking details about what she'd been up to. My sister, it turns out, had been far busier than I'd realized, and not in a good way. The biggest bombshell? General Grant had called the local police, filing a report for breaking and entering, property destruction, and what they labeled a hate crime due to the attack's timing and planning. Lauren using Mom's key didn't make it legal for her to barge in and trash our home, especially while we were overseas handling a medical crisis. As evening fell and visiting hours ended, Mom wrestled with the truth about Lauren's actions. She'd spent years defending Lauren, excusing her behavior, trying to hold our family together by urging us to ignore Lauren's growing chaos. But this couldn't be ignored. Emily slept peacefully in my arms, completely unaware of the storm swirling around her arrival. She was perfect, innocent, and gazing at her reminded me what truly mattered. Lauren could destroy things, but she couldn't touch the love that brought Emily into being or the family who'd shield her. Just 12 hours ago, the future felt clear and simple. Now it was a tangled mess. We'd need to rebuild the nursery, replace everything Lauren ruined, and navigate the legal and emotional fallout of her attack. But watching William hold Emily for the first time, his face soft with awe and fierce with love, I knew we'd face it together. Lauren thought she'd picked the perfect moment to break me, to prove she could wreck what I cherished. She couldn't have chosen a worse time for herself. She wasn't just facing her little sister anymore. She was up against a Marine family who wouldn't tolerate attacks on their own. And General Derek Grant was ready to make that crystal clear. That first night in the hospital, Emily's feedings and the hum of machines kept sleep at bay. Every time I drifted off, my mind replayed those security camera images, the destruction vivid and raw. The flipped crib, the broken mobile, the gaping holes in the nursery walls I'd painted with such care. Each time I woke, reality hit like stepping barefoot on shattered glass. William barely slept, pacing between the window and my bed, his phone buzzing with updates from his father. General Grant had spent the night working with police, cataloging every detail of the damage and digging into leads that stretched beyond our quiet Beaverton home. Even I found his military precision both comforting and a little intimidating. 3 a.m., while I nursed Emily in the dim hospital light, William shared what his father had uncovered. Lauren's attack on our nursery wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act. She'd been plotting for weeks, ever since Mom suggested giving her the spare key to water our plants while we were at the hospital. Neighbors' doorbell footage showed Lauren driving by our house multiple times over the past 2 weeks, clearly timing her visits to avoid William's leave. But the worst part? What General Grant found on Lauren's social media. In private posts, visible only to her inner circle, she'd been spewing venom about William and me. Police screenshots revealed months of bitter rants about my pregnancy, my marriage, and what she called my perfect little military wife dream. The hatred and planning in those posts turned my stomach. One post from 3 weeks ago chilled me. Some people need a reality check when they think they can have it all. Another, just 5 days before Emily's birth, was even clearer, counting down to the little princess's reality check. Maybe then she'll get what we've been dealing with, it read. Mom arrived that morning, looking like she'd aged a decade overnight. The woman who'd spent years defending Lauren, excusing her actions, and preaching family forgiveness struggled to face the evidence of Lauren's calculated cruelty. She sat in the stiff hospital chair, holding Emily, tears streaming as she apologized over and over for missing who Lauren had become. Talking with Mom was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. Years of buried frustrations and ignored incidents poured out as we finally saw Lauren's pattern. Cutting remarks disguised as jokes. The way she'd chip away at my confidence before big moments, then act surprised when things went wrong. Constant competition I never wanted but couldn't escape. Mom admitted her own guilt, saying she'd enabled Lauren by always taking the easy way out. It was simpler to ask me to be patient than to confront Lauren's behavior. Smoother to gloss over things than set firm boundaries. She'd told herself she was keeping the family intact, but now she saw she'd protected Lauren from consequences while leaving me open to her escalating attacks. Dr. Cooper came by at 8 a.m. to check on Emily's feeding and my recovery. Noticing our strained faces, she gently asked about our situation. When William briefly explained, she offered to extend our hospital stay a day or two. She'd seen families grapple with domestic chaos before and knew rushing home to a wrecked space with a newborn wasn't healthy. The relief of not facing the ruined nursery right away was overwhelming. Emily deserved a calm start to life, and I needed time to process without constant reminders of Lauren's destruction. William jumped at Dr. Cooper's offer, stepping into the hall to update his father on our extended stay. General Grant arrived at 10 a.m., and his presence instantly changed the room's vibe. He was every inch the 3-star Marine general, tall, commanding, with steel gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. When General Grant saw Emily sleeping in my arms, his tough exterior melted into pure awe. He brought me flowers and a tiny pink teddy bear for Emily, oddly soft for a man who'd led thousands. His congratulations were warm, genuine. When he held his granddaughter, his strong hands were surprisingly gentle. For a moment, we were just a normal family, cherishing a new life. But when we talked about Lauren, General Grant snapped back to military mode. He'd spent the night with local police and had news that flipped our situation upside down. Lauren's nursery rampage was now a felony case, given the damage and clear intent. Security footage, her social media posts, and the timing painted a damning picture of deliberate crime. And there was more. General Grant had used his contacts to dig into Lauren's past, as he would for any threat to our family. He found a pattern of destruction going back years. She'd been fired from 2 jobs for harassment and vandalism. A former roommate had a restraining order against her for sabotaging a grad school application. Recently, she was tangled in a lawsuit with a business partner who accused her of trashing computer equipment after a falling out. Lauren's history showed a clear habit of using destruction to hurt others in deeply personal ways. It was a pattern that had been building for years. The truth hit hard but felt strangely validating. I wasn't crazy or overreacting. Lauren was genuinely dangerous, and I'd been caught in her crosshairs without fully grasping how serious it was. General Grant said the police were ready to arrest her, coordinating with his security team to keep things smooth. As a military family, we had access to resources most don't, like the base's legal office, already prepping to help with the criminal case and any civil suits. Around noon, William's phone rang, Detective Sophie Perez on our case. Call was short but heavy. Lauren had been picked up for questioning. She claimed she'd just stopped by our house for an old sweater, but the security footage in her post shredded her story. The detective wanted to meet us at the hospital to take our statements and share new evidence. She also warned that Lauren's history suggested she'd escalate if faced with consequences. Protection from my own sister? Sounded unreal. But Detective Perez's concern was real, backed by years of experience. She arrived that afternoon, tablet loaded with evidence, her approach kind but thorough. She walked us through Lauren's calculated timeline, showing doorbell footage from neighbors capturing her staking out our house. Photos showed her parked across the street, watching our windows, likely tracking our routine by the lights. Her social media posts, taken together, were crushing. For months, Lauren had spun a narrative of me as the villain, painting my happiness as something stolen from her. She saw others' success as a personal attack, demanding revenge to balance the scales. She'd even researched labor and delivery times before Emily's birth, likely to pinpoint when I'd be most vulnerable. She'd looked up typical hospital stays for new moms, probably calculating how long she had to wreck our home before we returned. Detective Perez said this level of planning turned the case from a family dispute into a clear criminal act. The evidence showed someone who'd invested serious time and energy to cause maximum emotional pain at the worst possible moment. Mom listened, horrified, finally seeing the depth of Lauren's transformation. Her daughter, whom she'd defended for years, wasn't just troubled or jealous, she was dangerous. Lauren's escalating behavior showed she'd keep targeting me and now my family in worse ways if unchecked. 3 o'clock, another call shook things up. Lauren had been arrested, charged with breaking and entering, property destruction, harassment, and serious criminal mischief due to the planning and timing. Her bond was set high. She was a flight risk with a history of similar acts. She'd tried calling me from the station, leaving frantic voicemails now used as evidence against her. Her messages swung between tearful apologies and angry accusations, exposing her unstable mindset and fixation on me. The last voicemail was chilling. You think you're perfect with your husband and baby, but I know the real you. I know what you did to get here, and I'll make sure everyone knows. This isn't over, Sophie. It's just the start. The threat was clear, ruling out any chance her attack was a one-off emotional outburst. General Grant acted fast, arranging security to watch our home and the hospital. He'd also launched a deeper probe into Lauren's actions and contacts, treating her as more than a family problem, a potential threat to military personnel. His resources to protect us were impressive, a bit intimidating but deeply comforting given Lauren's escalation. That evening, as we settled in for our second hospital night, I saw the nursery attack differently. Lauren wanted to break me, to make our home feel unsafe. But surrounded by family and backed by resources I never imagined needing, I felt something new, a sharp, focused anger at someone who'd attacked my daughter and family. The woman in that hospital bed, holding her newborn, wasn't the same person who'd spent years trying to make peace with someone bent on destroying her joy. Motherhood had sparked something fierce and protective, unwilling to just fix what was broken. William saw the change in me as we talked quietly, Emily sleeping between us. His anger was cold, strategic, shaped by years as a military leader. We weren't just Lauren's victims anymore. We were parents with a child to protect. That shifted everything. Our talk that night went beyond Lauren and the ruined nursery. It was about the family we wanted to be, the life we wanted to build, and how far we'd go to defend it. We'd spent too long reacting, letting Lauren's actions control our choices. Now we'd take charge. General Grant stopped by late with updates that proved we were on the right path. Lauren's arrest had triggered a meltdown, adding charges of disturbing the peace and resisting arrest. More critically, her employer was now investigating her for embezzlement, which might explain her financial struggles and growing attacks on my stability. Truth was coming into focus. Lauren wasn't just jealous of my happiness. Her own life was crumbling under the weight of her bad choices and crimes. Attacking my family was Lauren's attempt to drag me down to her level, a desperate move to shift focus from her crumbling life by wrecking mine. But she miscalculated badly. She didn't just target me, she took on a military family with resources and support she couldn't imagine. Worse for her, she struck when those who cared about me were ready to hit back with full force. As I drifted off that second night, cradling Emily with William's steady breathing beside me, I felt something new toward Lauren: safety. Not because the threat was gone, but because I had the strength and backing to face whatever came next. Lauren tried to break me when I was most vulnerable. Instead, she ignited a fierce protective instinct and rallied a network to ensure she'd never threaten us again. Tomorrow would bring challenges, navigating the legal mess and rebuilding what she destroyed. But tonight we were united, safe, and ready for a fight Lauren never expected. The woman who'd spent years trying to keep peace with a dangerous sister was gone. In her place was a mother ready to do anything for her child and a military wife who knew some battles demanded total victory, not temporary truces. Lauren was about to learn what that meant. The third morning brought Martha Grant, Emily's grandmother, who changed everything. She arrived before dawn, exuding the quiet efficiency of a seasoned military spouse. She walked in with good coffee, homemade muffins that shamed hospital food, and a resolve that showed where William got his grit. Martha flew in from Camp Pendleton after General Grant's call, not for sympathy but to take charge. Within an hour, she turned our cramped hospital room into a command center: laptops, legal papers, and a system tracking updates across states. Her news was grim but empowering. Lauren's company had confirmed her embezzlement, $50,000 stolen over 8 months through fake vendor accounts and forged expense reports. The timing wasn't random. Her crimes spiked as my pregnancy progressed, like my happiness drove her to darker desperation. But Martha's real gift was perspective. With 30 years as a military spouse, she'd faced threats from deployments to home invasions. She saw Lauren's attack not as a family spat, but as an assault on military personnel requiring a full response. Her approach was starkly different from Mom's, who wanted to understand Lauren and mend family ties. Martha focused on neutralizing the threat and ensuring it wouldn't happen again. While I thought about rebuilding the nursery, Martha planned to protect our entire family long-term. She contacted the base's family readiness group, and within hours, volunteers were arranging temporary housing and trauma cleanup services. The efficiency was stunning, like being wrapped in expert care. Martha's key move was a call to Major Rachel Williams, a legal officer specializing in domestic security for military families. Major Williams knew cases like ours, where civilian relatives posed risks to active duty members. Lauren's actions fit a dangerous pattern. 'Cause William was active duty, her attack during his leave could fall under federal laws with harsher penalties than state charges. Military protective orders, unlike civilian ones, could be enforced nationwide. Major Williams said Lauren's history, threats, and financial crimes marked her as a threat to unit readiness. Her case would be treated with the seriousness of foreign or domestic terror threats, with vast resources to protect us long-term. Her timing wasn't just personal, it was strategic. Attacking during Williams' leave disrupted his mental state, impacting military readiness. Her actions weren't just criminal, they bordered on traitorous under federal law. At noon, Detective Perez called with another shift. Lauren had made bail, despite the high bond, using a bondsman for high-risk offenders and funds the police were still tracing. The news could have rattled me, but Martha's reaction was calm satisfaction. Lauren's release was what she'd hoped for. Someone free could be watched, tracked, and caught in new crimes, killing her chances of leniency. General Grant arrived soon after, with 2 plainclothes security specialists to monitor us and Lauren's movements. Their surveillance was both protective and investigative. logging every step she took for potential evidence. That afternoon, Mom called, shaken. Lauren had shown up at her house, demanding money and a place to stay. When Mom refused and urged her to get help, Lauren exploded, prompting a police call. Mom's security system caught it all, showing Lauren violating her bail by threatening our family. The footage strengthened the federal case building against her. Martha acted fast, arranging for Mom to be moved to Portland under protection, keeping her safe and out of Lauren's reach. Mom's house was now under local and federal surveillance, a trap if Lauren returned. Every move Lauren made on bail added to the evidence piling up against her. Late that afternoon, Major Williams called with a bombshell. Lauren's embezzlement involved vendors with government contracts, pulling her crimes into federal jurisdiction. Her attack on us during Williams' leave was interference with military operations. Her threats against military families brought her under domestic terrorism laws. Lauren had gone from a troublesome sister to a federal suspect. It was staggering, but it brought a level of safety and justice I never thought possible. The resources weren't just for punishment, they were to ensure she'd never target military families again. Her case was setting a precedent for handling similar threats. That evening, as we prepped for our last hospital night, I saw the nursery attack in a new light. Lauren meant to destroy my sense of safety, but she'd revealed strengths and resources I didn't know I had. The nursery would be rebuilt, but by a family who knew our strength and had protection Lauren couldn't match. William spent the evening on calls with his commanding officer, planning his return to duty while ensuring Lauren's chaos didn't derail his service. The support from his unit surprised me. They'd been briefed and were ready to provide extra security and resources. His fellow Marines weren't just colleagues, they were brothers who took threats to our family personally. Emily slept peacefully in my arms, unaware of the storm around her birth, as our family rallied resources from states and federal agencies. Looking at her tiny, perfect face, I felt proud of the family she was born into and the protection surrounding her from day one. Martha worked late, making lists and calls with the same precision she'd used for decades of military moves. By morning, we'd have temporary housing, trauma counseling, and a security plan to ensure Lauren never threatened us again. Her greatest gift was showing me I wasn't a victim anymore. As a military spouse, I had resources and safety most civilians don't. As a mother, I had the full backing of my military family. Most importantly, I wasn't the isolated girl Lauren had targeted for years. I was part of a community that fiercely protected its own. That night, our talk about the nursery wasn't about managing Lauren or finding peace. We planned to strip her of any power to harm us, ensuring she faced full consequences. The military's approach was thorough and permanent, not temporary or half-hearted. 10 a.m., General Grant got a call that filled the room with quiet triumph. Lauren had been arrested again at a hotel near the Oregon-California border, trying to flee the state. Her arrest broke multiple bail conditions and uncovered evidence that strengthened the federal case. In her hotel room, police found plans for more attacks on our family, surveillance photos of Williams' base housing and research on military family security. Her nursery rampage wasn't a one-off outburst. She'd planned a full campaign of harassment against a military family. This evidence elevated her case to domestic terrorism under federal law. She now faced decades in federal prison with no lenient plea deals like in state courts. Her conviction would bar her from military bases or personnel forever. That final hospital night, I felt something new about Lauren: freedom. Not just safety, but true liberation from years of walking on eggshells around someone spiraling toward violence. The sister who'd terrorized me was finally facing consequences that matched her actions. Emily stirred, making soft newborn sounds in her sleep. Her arrival didn't just start her life, it ended Lauren's hold over mine. The nursery would be rebuilt by a family who knew our strength and had unmatched protection. William gently touched Emily's tiny hand, his calm confidence reminding me why I fell for a Marine. He'd faced worse threats overseas than one unstable sister. He met Lauren's attack with the same strategic focus that kept him alive in combat. Martha packed her papers with quiet satisfaction, her work done but her guard still up. She turned a devastating attack into a chance to eliminate a threat, showing the family's strength Lauren never saw coming. Tomorrow, we'd go home to a house being restored and secured by experts who knew what they were protecting. Lauren would face federal consequences, setting an example for anyone daring to threaten military families. Emily would grow up in a family that proved we could protect what mattered most. The woman who'd spent years managing Lauren's dangerous behavior was gone. In her place was a military spouse who knew some threats required total elimination, not endless management. Lauren thought she'd break me at my weakest. Instead, she unleashed resources and strength that would protect my family for years. As I fell asleep holding Emily, I felt grateful, not for Lauren's pain, but for how her attack revealed my true family and their power to protect what's ours. She meant to destroy my happiness. Instead, she showed it was built on a foundation she could never touch. 3 weeks later, we arrived at the federal courthouse in Portland on a Thursday morning, stepping into a different world. The towering granite building and heavy security screamed serious federal crimes. Here, defendants faced decades in prison, and the government's full might tackled national security threats. Major Williams got us in through a private entrance, dodging the media frenzy around Lauren's case. Her attack on a military family during childbirth had sparked national attention, especially among military and domestic violence advocacy groups. It was a landmark case for how threats to military families would be prosecuted to the fullest. Emily slept in her carrier, unaware she was witnessing the dismantling of someone who'd planned to torment her from birth. At 3 weeks, she was thriving, her pediatrician calling her perfectly healthy, a testament to the safe space we'd built despite Lauren's efforts. Courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined, but the air buzzed with intensity. The federal prosecutor's table was stacked with files that seemed to hold Lauren's entire life, while her court-appointed lawyer looked buried under the mountain of evidence against her. General Grant sat in the gallery, calm and steady, like a man who'd seen justice served before. Martha cradled Emily with the quiet strength of someone who'd raised kids through countless military storms. When Lauren shuffled in, orange jumpsuit and handcuffs clanking, I barely recognized her. The sister who once commanded family dinners was gone. 3 weeks in federal custody had stripped her polished mask, leaving someone small, desperate, and finally facing consequences she couldn't dodge. Assistant U.S. Attorney Monica Chong laid out Lauren's case with surgical precision, leaving no room for sympathy. Since her arrest, charges had ballooned: wire fraud, money laundering, cyberstalking, interstate racketeering, and domestic terrorism under laws protecting government personnel and their families. 7 counts of wire fraud, each carrying up to 20 years. Money laundering added another 20. Terrorism charge could mean life in prison. The combined weight crushed any hope of a light state-level plea deal. The evidence showed how completely Lauren underestimated us. Federal agents had mapped not just her recent crimes but a decade-long trail of escalating malice. Bank records, social media, employment history, and surveillance footage from multiple states painted a picture of someone who'd spent her adult life manipulating, stealing, and destroying others' happiness. Her financial crimes were calculated, using stolen identities for fake vendor accounts, rigging systems for fraudulent payments, and laundering money across state lines. This wasn't a family squabble, it was sophisticated crime planned over months. The cyberstalking evidence hit hardest. Lauren hadn't just targeted me, she'd tracked William's military career and our extended family. She'd hacked our social media, intercepted emails, and used advanced software to monitor our movements. It was the kind of surveillance federal agents see in espionage or terrorist cases. The worst came from her hotel room after her arrest. Prosecutors revealed plans for a long-term psychological warfare campaign against military personnel and families. She had surveillance photos of William's base housing, personal details on other military wives in our town, and lists of weapons and spying gear. Her room held a trophy collection from past attacks, photos of wrecked property, recordings of emotional confrontations, and notes on her victim's pain. Our nursery was just one piece of her predatory pattern. When the courtroom screen showed our ruined nursery, smashed woodland murals, overturned crib, torn rocking chair I'd lovingly reupholstered, the room gasped. The timing during Emily's birth added a cruelty that hit hard. But the prosecution didn't lean on emotion alone. They proved Lauren's attack met federal domestic terrorism criteria, designed to intimidate military members through violence and destruction. It was time to destabilize William when his mental readiness was critical for duty. Federal terrorism laws exist to shield government families from exactly this. Her documented threats against military bases and personnel turned her case into a national security issue. Her lawyer tried to paint her as mentally ill, driven by jealousy, not criminal intent, pushing for therapy over harsh punishment. His argument was slick but drowned by evidence of her calculated planning. A federal psychiatric evaluation backfired, finding no mental illness to excuse her actions. Instead, it flagged personality traits that made her more dangerous, fully aware of her crimes yet choosing to escalate. When Lauren spoke, her words echoed the same lack of remorse I'd known my whole life. She blamed family favoritism and my unfair happiness, calling the nursery attack a wake-up call, not a crime. She seemed shocked that her actions were labeled terrorism, not family drama. Her veiled threats, saying Emily would learn the truth about us and that military families would pay, showed she still targeted us. Judge Caroline Morrison, a veteran of federal terrorism trials, didn't hesitate. She called Lauren an ongoing public safety threat requiring permanent containment. The sentence was brutal: 18 years in federal prison, no parole under federal guidelines. Post-release, 15 years of supervised probation with bans on free travel, unsupervised computer use, or contacting our family. Her terrorism conviction meant lifelong watch lists, tracking her every move. Any future contact with military personnel or bases would trigger immediate federal action. A civil forfeiture order stripped her of everything, her apartment, car, and bank accounts, until her financial crimes were fully investigated. She'd leave prison with nothing but prison-issued clothes. A permanent federal restraining order, enforceable nationwide, ensured any attempt to reach us would lead to instant arrest and new charges. Lauren's reaction was telling. No remorse, just rage, screaming accusations as court staff restrained her. Her final words, aimed at me, vowed that prison wouldn't protect us forever and she'd make us pay for ruining her life. Court reporters logged every word, adding them to her file as proof of her ongoing threat. Her prison communications would now be monitored for any hint of retaliation plans. Leaving the courthouse, Emily in her carrier, surrounded by my military family's love and protection, I felt something new. Not just safe, truly free. The sister who'd tormented me since childhood was finally facing justice that matched her crimes. General Grant's satisfaction was quiet but clear, the response of a commander who'd neutralized a threat to his family. Martha's relief was clear, a deep exhale from someone who'd spent weeks rallying resources to shield her granddaughter and me from harm. William's arm around my shoulders carried the steady strength of a man who'd faced threats overseas and wouldn't let a domestic one win. Outside the courthouse, the media buzz was intense but brief. Federal prosecutors used Lauren's case to send a loud message. Threats to military families would face severe consequences. Military advocacy groups hailed her sentence as justice served. The story rippled through military communities, a warning to anyone thinking of targeting service members or their families. But for us, those courthouse steps marked the end of Lauren's shadow over our joy and the start of a life focused on building our family without fear. Emily cooed happily in her carrier, nestled among grandparents who'd mobilized federal resources to protect her and parents who'd found their true strength defending what mattered most. Driving home, we passed the federal detention center where Lauren would stay before transferring to her permanent prison. Its high walls and razor wire were a stark reminder. Some actions have consequences no family ties or manipulation could escape. That evening, in our temporary housing as our home got its final security upgrades, Detective Perez called with one last update. Lauren's prison assignment was set, a maximum security facility in another state, far from local support or family visits. Her placement was chosen to block any chance of her orchestrating retaliation. Perez added that Lauren's case was now a training tool for law enforcement nationwide, teaching how to spot and prosecute threats against military families. Our ordeal was helping protect other families, giving purpose to our pain and ensuring Lauren's actions served justice long after her sentencing. Nursing Emily that night, knowing we'd return to our restored home tomorrow, I saw Lauren's failure clearly. She aimed to shatter my security at my most vulnerable. Instead, she unleashed resources and strengths that would keep us safe for years. Our nursery, rebuilt by military family volunteers, now had security features woven into its beauty, blessed by a community that stood by us in crisis. It was a safe, loving space for Emily to grow, backed by people who took threats to military families seriously. 6 months later, I stood in Emily's fully restored nursery, watching her reach for the mobile spinning above her crib. The new woodland creatures, painted by military wives who poured their time and talent into it, danced in the sunlight, even lovelier than the originals Lauren destroyed. Each brushstroke carried the love of a community that rallied for us in our darkest moment. The room wasn't just rebuilt, it was transformed. Reinforced windows let in Oregon's soft winter light, and a security system tied to base protection kept us safe. Emily would grow up in a sanctuary that was also a fortress, backed by resources Lauren never imagined. William walked in with Emily's bottle, his movements calm and confident, showing how much our lives had stabilized since Lauren's conviction. Tension of his early days as a father had faded into the natural vigilance of a protective parent, not a soldier expecting an attack. He'd returned to active duty 3 months ago, trusting our family was secure for the long haul. Emily had blossomed into a calm, joyful baby, as if she knew she was surrounded by people who'd do anything to protect her. Her pediatrician often noted her advanced growth and sunny disposition, saying kids thrive in safe, loving homes. Chaos of her birth left no mark on her. Prosecutors kept us updated on Lauren's prison transfer, but the reports were short and matter-of-fact. She was in administrative segregation for her safety after threatening inmates with military ties. Her communications were monitored under terrorism guidelines, and several attempts to contact us were intercepted, adding to her file as violations. The legal case wrapped up last month with a settlement covering Emily's college fund and supporting other military families facing similar threats. Lauren's insurance company tried to dodge payment, claiming her acts were terrorism, but prosecutors fought with the same tenacity as in court. Her case even sparked changes in how federal law enforcement handles threats to military families. The FBI created specialized units to track and prosecute such cases, using Lauren's behavior as a blueprint to catch threats before they turn violent. My bond with Mom grew stronger and more honest. Facing Lauren's true nature forced her to confront years of enabling and misplaced loyalty. She started counseling to process her guilt and now advocates for families dealing with toxic relatives. Her shift from enabler to protector was profound. Dad surprised us all, offering steady support through the trials. His experience as a veterinarian handling aggressive animals helped him understand Lauren's patterns, aiding investigators. His quiet strength anchored us through months of uncertainty. Martha returned to California after Lauren's sentencing but left behind a lasting network of support. Military spouse communities embraced Emily and me, seeing us as symbols of resilience and the importance of protecting families, forging bonds deeper than friendship. Our home, restored by military contractors, was stronger than ever. Reinforced doors, upgraded security, and structural improvements kept its charm while making it a fortress. Lauren's attack left us with a safer, more beautiful home. Emily stirred in her crib, her soft sounds signaling she was ready to eat. I scooped her up, marveling at how perfectly she fit into our lives. Her arrival sparked everything that followed, uniting people to protect us and ensure threats like Lauren's would never succeed again. Settling into the restored rocking chair, now comfier and more elegant, I thought of the woman I was before Emily's birth and Lauren's attack. That woman was reactive, always trying to manage Lauren's chaos to avoid conflict. She was isolated, tied to family dynamics that prioritized peace over safety. The woman in this chair was different. I knew my worth and the power of my community. I'd learned to spot threats early and respond with force, not hope for change. Most importantly, I understood that true family safety sometimes meant cutting out dangerous relatives for good. Emily fed contentedly, her tiny hand gripping my finger with surprising strength. Looking at her perfect face, I felt gratitude for Lauren's attack, not for the pain but for the strength it revealed and the protection it summoned. Our daughter would grow in a family that proved it could guard what mattered most. Sunlight streamed through reinforced windows, casting rainbows on the woodland mural, giving the once destroyed room a magical glow. Its beauty ran deeper, built with purpose by people who understood its meaning. Every detail spoke of resilience and renewal. William stood in the doorway, laptop in hand, settling into the reading chair to work near his family. William's presence was a quiet anchor, his steady strength forged in real threats overseas, making Lauren's attack seem almost trivial by comparison. Her assault was serious, but our response was so thorough that future threats felt nearly impossible. Monthly security briefings from base personnel had become routine, updates on a contained situation rather than urgent warnings. Lauren's monitored prison communications showed her focused on surviving federal custody, not plotting revenge. Her delusion of control was finally crumbling under the weight of her defeat. Emily finished nursing, gazing up with an alert look that grew sharper as she developed. Her eyes held the same quiet intelligence I loved in William, but with a spark all her own. She'd grow up knowing she was safe, surrounded by people who'd proven their devotion to her safety. That afternoon, a knock at the door brought news that sealed Lauren's story. Detective Perez shared that Lauren's embezzlement case had added 8 years to her sentence with new federal charges. Her former employer agreed to testify in related cases, exposing similar financial crimes. Perez also said Lauren's old roommate and business partner had filed civil suits for sabotage and destruction. Her federal conviction made their cases airtight, ensuring compensation for her victims while leaving Lauren financially ruined for life. Most importantly, Lauren's case was now a cornerstone in federal law enforcement training, teaching how to spot and stop threats against government personnel. Her story would protect other families, giving our pain purpose and ensuring her crimes echoed justice beyond our experience. That evening, as we settled Emily into her bedtime routine in the nursery, a symbol of resilience, William and I talked about our future. His promotion was coming within a year, possibly with a move to a new base. Relocating didn't scare me anymore. Our protective network would follow us anywhere. Emily's bedtime routine was a cherished ritual, from her bath next to the nursery to story time in the cozy rocker. She was starting to pick favorite books and songs, her personality emerging, shaped by the strength and safety of her military family. As I laid Emily in her crib, watching her drift off with the peace of a child who'd never known true fear, I thought about how Lauren's attack changed us. She meant to destroy our joy at our most vulnerable. Instead, she unlocked resources and revealed strengths that would shield us for years. The mobile above Emily's crib spun gently, casting woodland shadows on walls lovingly rebuilt. Each shadow was more than art. It was the mark of a community that stood by us and would for years to come. William's hand on my shoulder as we watched Emily sleep held the warmth I felt for years ago, now deepened by our shared trial. Our home grew quiet, the security systems hum a reminder of the technology and people Lauren could never outmatch. Emily slept soundly in her restored nursery, wrapped in beauty crafted by those who knew what they were protecting. Walking to our bedroom, I glanced out at our neighborhood street, now sacred because we'd fought to keep it safe. Our house wasn't just a home, it was a fortress built on military family unity. The woman who once tiptoed around a dangerous sister was gone, replaced by someone who knew her strength and the power of her community. Lauren thought she'd prove I was alone and weak. Instead, she showed I was loved and protected by people who'd go to any length for us. Emily would grow up knowing this story, learning her birth was marked not by destruction but by love and protection that would surround her always. The nursery, once wrecked, would remind her that beauty can rise from pain when rebuilt by those who care. Years later, when Emily's old enough to hear about her birth and the attack, she'll learn that evil actions can reveal unexpected strength. She'll know true family isn't blood, it's those who choose to protect you. The military community that rallied for us will be her extended family, offering role models of resilience and service. She'll grow up knowing some dedicate their lives to guarding what matters, and she's part of that legacy. The nursery will always be more than a room. It's a symbol of resilience, renewal, and the community that overcame one person's hate. Every detail will show that love and protection can rebuild what hatred tries to destroy. Lauren's isolation blinded her to the truth. Military families are never alone or without defenders. Her defeat was total, a warning to anyone else who dare try. Falling asleep, holding William's hand, hearing Emily's soft breathing next door, I felt a deep contentment. Not just for defeating Lauren, but for discovering our strength and the protection that would always surround us. And as this story slips into the shadows of your mind, fading where memory meets mystery, know it's more than a tale. It's an awakening, a raw pulse of truth wrapped in secrets and hidden feelings. Each word a shard of reality, each sentence a bridge between the seen and unseen, light and shadow. Stories work their magic in this liminal space, stirring your deepest fears, desires, and fragile hopes like embers in your soul. This is their power. These digital confessions, shouted into the void, where anonymity masks truth and you become the keeper of secrets too heavy to hold alone. Now, this trembling echo of our reality is part of your own shadowed story, sparking curiosity, a hunger to know what lies beyond. What stories remain untold? What mysteries wait for you to uncover? Hold tight to this electric thread of wonder and unease. It binds us across the vast web of human existence. If your heart races, if your mind wanders to what ifs, the story has done its work. Its magic is woven into your being. Before you leave, know every story here invites you to dig deeper, listen closer, embrace both light and dark. If this tale haunts you, honor it. Like this video, subscribe to join those chasing hidden truths, and ring the bell to greet the next confession or shadow waiting to emerge. We don't just tell stories here, we summon them. We become vessels for the forgotten, the hidden, the unheard.